Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio, broadcasting live from deep inside the heart of the future Liberty State. Sponsored once again by On Fire Ministries, in the legacy of Dr. Stan Monteith, bringing you the story behind the story and the news behind the news, where it's not about right or left, it's about right and wrong. It's about our hope not being in man, but in Jesus Christ. About not ending in prayer, but moving to action. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Father, deliver us from the evil one.
Welcome to Patriot Radio.
Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and today on Patriot Radio, corruption is misgendered, and the communists are coming out into the open. Ukraine agrees to a 30-day ceasefire, and the genocide continues in Syria. We bring you the news before everybody else so that you and your family can be prepared for the times that are ahead and the times that are already upon us. But no fear, we were made for this. But make sure you are in the know. Make sure that you can every night take a look at what's going on in the world, or every morning what's going on in the world, without having to scroll through a whole bunch of different things. And to do that, you can follow us on Telegram, patriotradio.us/Telegram, and share that link with your friends and family so they can be in the know as well. And just touting a few things, we called the invasion of Ukraine almost to the day. We also had 5 days before the lockdown was declared for COVID, we put it out that that's in fact what was going to happen. So again, if you want to be in the know weeks ahead of time, time can mean money, but it can more importantly mean life. And I remember when we called our brother-in-law in Ukraine and told him that this is 2 weeks ahead of time that this was going to happen. That family, being warned ahead of time, ended up saving lives. Now, he didn't listen right away, and don't be that person, but fear is removed when you have knowledge. And that's what we aim to do here at Patriot Radio. Also, fear is removed when you have prayer. So please, if you want prayer, patriotradio.us/prayer. We would love to pray with you on your journey with Jesus Christ. And that brings us now to your wisdom from the word for today, Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 1. Now it came about that when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became furious and very angry, and he mocked the Jews. Now, here is what the response was to that. Now, Sanballat is representative of those who are mockers and scoffers against the people who are actually doing something. They know the signs of the times and what to do about it, and they're actually activated, moving in a direction. You're always going to have the mockers and scoffers. And we're seeing that today with what's happening in the federal government. We're also seeing that today with what's happening in the church. So here is the response. So we built the wall, and the entire wall was joined together to have its height, for the people had a mind, and this is the idea of a single mind to work. So when the mockers and scoffers come, keep going in the direction that you're supposed to, and that's what needs to happen at the federal level. Do not let those who are getting upset and trying to create fear narratives get you off track, distract you. Because what we're seeing is the implementation of reformation, true reformation. In other words, aligning the system with the kingdom of God. Removing the corruption and paring the system down, because ultimately government is not supposed to be some gigantic behemoth. It's supposed to be small, with well-defined powers that are not usurped from the states in our constitutional republic. And when we get back to that, and I think people are going to be shocked that when we see Leviathan cut down, how much more freedom that we actually have that we didn't even know we lost. That brings us now to your daily intelligence briefing. coming to us from the Globalist Front.
The future is built by us. We have the means to make progress on the global agenda.
Former member of the Bank of England, former member of the Trilateral Commission, former Goldman Sachs managing director, and bigwig with Bilderberg, the World Economic Forum, and the United Nations, Mark Carney is now poised to be the head of Canada. And so we really now are having to put forward a Canadian front. And our brothers and sisters in rural Canada already know this, and they have known it for a long time, that the communists, the globalists, are in control of their country. So don't think that all Canadians are the same, but the Trudeau government and the Carney government in the offing is heading Canada on a collision course for the United States. However, some reality is beginning to set in today, as we'll get to here in a moment. So Trump, doing so much, but I think there's a key piece that we need to talk about on the globalist front of the Panama Canal. And specifically, this company that took over from the Chinese, what is it really? So the United States built the Panama Canal. The Panamanians, in turn, ceded the canal to Hutchison Whampoa, a front company owned by Chinese military intelligence. So now BlackRock has bought that, and BlackRock purchased the critical ports from this CK Hutchins Holding Company Limited. But here's the key piece of this. The connection that I think makes everything make sense, and that this might have been actually a shell game. So this subterfuge that we're seeing, we need to dig into this, because this Hutchison Whampoa company formed in 2015 by a merger of Cheong Kong Holdings and its main associate company, Hutchison Whampoa. This is CK Hutchins Holding Limited. May also have interests in what BlackRock is doing, and BlackRock is clearly a globalist company. So has anything really changed? And is that more of a globalist takeover instead of a Chinese takeover of Panama? And I hope that Trump administration begins to address that soon. Also, a U.S. think tank has urged sanctions for specific ANC leaders in South Africa, and we're going to see more of this. Look, the ANC is a test bed. South Africa is a test bed for globalist policies. And most of you don't even know about the riots that occurred in South Africa. You don't know about the white farmers that have been having their land stolen from them, the raping, pillaging, and murder that's happened down there. It's coming out right now. So what the Trump administration is doing by at least thinking about this, or even having conversations with think tanks that are suggesting ANC leaders are sanctioned, is really a test bed of sanctioning globalists. So we've talked about China, we've talked about Russia, we've talked about Iran and the jihadis, but sanctioning globalists, that would be a significant step in stopping the New World Order. That brings us now to the China front. The Epoch Times has responded to Chinese hacking attack, quote, "We will not back down." The DOJ then in turn indicted 12 Chinese hackers, officials for cyber operation whose targets included Epoch Times, and apparently looks like it might have included X as well. That's not really clear in this, but the bottom line is that the United States, and if we go to the next article, the United States is going to start prosecuting, even though some of these folks are not in the country. But here's the bigger question. Aren't we already at war if the Chinese are conducting cyber attacks against the United States. In a startling statement, North Korea warns that U.S.-South Korea military drills could spark the world's first nuclear war. Now, we're used to rhetoric out of North Korea that is very inflammatory. But could this be a pre-narrative shaping operation? A pre-war shaping operation to justify war between China and the United States? Now, remember, back 5 years ago, we talked about this. First, it would be Russia, Ukraine. Then it would be Iran, Israel. And then it would be China and the United States. That is what their plan is. Come against that in Jesus' name. But there needs to be a realization that this is the direction that they're indeed headed. Indonesia is going to ratify its exclusive economic zone deal with Vietnam in April. That was struck on Monday. The ex-defense minister also gave the visiting party chief his word that he would sign the implementing agreement when he makes a state visit to Hanoi in the future. Vietnam and Indonesia also elevated ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership. And by officially upgrading that partnership during those talks, quote, Vietnam is proud to have this comprehensive strategic partnership in Indonesia and believe everyone here feels the same. Both leaders highlighted the historic significance of Vietnam being the first ASEAN country to establish a comprehensive strategic partnership with Indonesia. All of this a hedge for a future war in the South Pacific. Movement to ban Chinese farmland purchases near military bases gained steam in the Senate. Chinese own around 350,000 acres of farmland across 27 U.S. states as of last year, according to data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And the PASS Act by Senator Mike Rounds, Republican from South Dakota, has the backing of the Majority Leader John Thune and would prevent any entity from a covered country, which includes China, North Korea, and Iran, from purchasing agricultural land near military bases or sensitive sites. It's about time. We need to do this for our national security. That moves us now to the Middle East front. Probably one of my favorite pictures ever. Yemenis Houthis said they will resume attacking ships in the Red Sea, the Arabian Sea, and the Bab al-Mandab Strait after a 4-day deadline they gave was lifted. The United States has positioned forces in the Middle East to do this. If we could scroll down a little bit, oh, look what he's standing on right now. If we could scroll that article down and bring it back up, he's standing on a brick because that's what they need to stand tall. You see, it's all a facade. And the United States struck radar installations in Yemen today. And this is what we're seeing across the board. The jihadis are a facade. The communists are a facade. They always try to make themselves look bigger than they actually are. And once you punch through the facade, you realize there is nothing behind it, just like General Patton taught us. An Egyptian diplomatic source, the leading proposal in negotiations between Israel and Hamas involves releasing 10 live Israeli hostages in exchange for a 60-day ceasefire, during which massive amounts of aid and shipments would enter Gaza and hundreds of Palestinian prisoners would be freed from Israeli jails. Somehow I don't think we're going to get there. I think that Israel is preparing for a broader strike in the Middle East against Iran. Lebanese newspaper An Nahar reports that the target of the attack in southern Lebanon today was a senior Hezbollah air defense officer. And speaking of that, the IDF had a very busy day. Hezbollah operative was eliminated. Israeli strike in central Gaza eliminates 5. At least 3 terrorists were taken out by Israeli forces in Jenin. And IDF targeted the Syrian military airport and further targets, they say, of the former Assad regime in Syria. But really what's happening is a protective umbrella of Israel over southwest Syria. Interim government forces in Syria launched a major counterinsurgent operation in former regime strongholds between March 7th and 10th that are insufficient to defeat pro-Assad insurgent cells across Syria. These are primarily Alawite, but what is going on is that there are also Christians in these areas as well, And what has resulted, according to many reports, is over 10,000, some say over 12,000 people killed systematically, entire villages being wiped out. Pamela Geller brings this to our attention, and the plea that some of these Alawite and Christian communities be offered immediate emergency asylum inside the United States of America. It's interesting that how the globalists approach things always seems to end up with Christians dying in very large numbers in the Middle East. Sadly, also, Syrian Democrat forces have come to an agreement with the current Syrian regime. They've agreed to a deal in which they will see the incorporation of all Kurdish civil and military institutions in the northeast into the Syrian state. Under the agreement, the SDF also pledges to support the Syrian government in its ongoing fight against the remnants of the Assad regime, as well as other threats against Syria, which could mean Israel. Additionally, the Syrian government struck a deal with representatives of the Suwaida governorate in southwestern Syria, primarily Druze, which would see the full integration of the Druze majority region into the Syrian state following these meetings earlier today. Significant shifts happening. If those in fact hold, it looks like Syria may have staved off another civil war, and it will be primarily aimed at Alawites and Christians, which means that the Trump administration should at least talk about how to help Christians flee to the United States, which brings us to the next article, which shows unbelievable courage where Syrian Christians raised up their crosses and marched in the open in Syria in defiance of the genocide that is going on. Also, armed militants in Pakistan's Balochistan region have attacked a train carrying hundreds of passengers and taken a number of hostages as that area becomes even more active than it was even 2 years ago. After the break, more from the Russia front. And is there going to be peace between Russia and Ukraine?
Attention business owners and entrepreneurs, Patriot TV is launching a brand new TV series showcasing American-made products, and your business could be featured. Whether you sell your products online on Etsy or Shopify and dream of reaching millions of viewers on smart TVs like Samsung, Sony, TCL, and LG, or apps like Roku, Android, and Apple TV, this is your chance. We're searching for U.S.-based businesses offering all types of products and services proudly made in the USA. If you've ever wanted to showcase your products on TV like QVC or the Home Shopping Network, now's your opportunity. Support our American economy, grow your business, and be seen by loyal Patriot viewers across the country. Know someone with a business or have a business yourself? Don't miss out. Contact us at supportingpatriots.com today. Be a guest on this new exciting TV series. Let's put your American-made products in the spotlight.
The new Supporting Patriots show on Patriot TV spotlights great Patriot-owned companies and introduces them to Patriot consumers, encouraging them to buy American-made. If you're an America-loving patriot that owns and operates his or her own business, and you have made in America products or services, you're the perfect candidate to be interviewed on the Supporting Patriots show. If you'd like to be considered for an interview, email us at supportingpatriots@patriot.tv.
And we're back with the Russia front. President Zelensky of Ukraine's full statement after accepting the U.S. proposal for an immediate 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine. He said, quote, that the American decision to restart military aid shipments for Ukraine and intelligence sharing are very important. And that means that we're now shifting to Russia. Russia on Tuesday said it would not rule out contact with the United States in the next few days after U.S. President Donald Trump said he may be speaking to Vladimir Putin this week. Looks like we are on a trajectory for peace. Meanwhile, Russia and the United Kingdom engaged in escalating spy wars and diplomatic expulsions as it becomes clear that the United Kingdom, under the auspices of the globalists, maybe the biggest factor in trying to subvert any peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine and what the United States is trying to bring about under the Trump administration. The United States did, in fact, agree to resume military aid and intel sharing, which likely didn't completely fall off, by the way, even though some media outlets were reporting it. And this is going to mean holding the status quo until a peace agreement can be signed. Ukraine launched the largest drone attack of the war against Russia, 343 drones entering 10 regions, per the Russian Defense Ministry. In those that struck targets, at least 18 people were injured and 3 killed. Per Ukrainian armed forces on Telegram, drones struck the Moscow oil refinery in the southeast of the city, which provides half of Moscow's gas and diesel. Now, this brings about a great lesson that warfare has totally changed. And the saturation of the battle space with FPV drones has reached record levels never seen before. And so this idea of one-on-one engagement with each single drone is very likely going to be replaced. And there has been work doing this with the Leonidas system, for example. It will then be against entire drone swarms. So whatever is coming out in directed energy weapons and potentially using modified EMPs, that is going to change warfare forever. And as soon as there is the ability to take out huge swaths of drones at one time, you're going to see the tactics shift again, and you're going to see smaller drones and even greater infiltration with what we talked about. I remember talking about this 15 years ago, and the former sheriff of Spokane County said it wasn't true, and yet we had literally the pictures of drones that were this big, okay? That's what they're going to go to. Now we've been proven right, and we've been vindicated in that, which is really a ridiculous argument because, of course, they're going to miniaturize. That's where the direction technology is always going to go. These smaller drones is the battle space of the future. So you're talking about drones that will be able to hide on trees, wait, and then strike. So you're not just talking about drone swarms, but you're talking about drone coordination. Maybe only a few drones move forward at one time, and the other ones move forward. So you're going to see a huge push for coordination between drones in the future that will try to defeat these systems that take out drones at one time. Also, a Russian missile struck a Barbados-flagged cargo ship in the port of Odessa. It was about to transport wheat to Algeria. 4 people in the crew were killed, 3 Syrians and 1 Ukrainian. Likely again to continue, but there does seem to be almost a status quo right now. And I suspect that I do suspect that will continue over the next couple of weeks as talks intensify for a 30-day ceasefire. Denmark, troops to Ukraine as part of a peacekeeping force after the war. So they are prepared to send troops there, which would put NATO in Ukraine. Again, I cannot understate that. And I can't overstate it as well. We need to be very precise here. NATO troops in Ukraine creates a flashpoint potentially in the future. Does it have to be NATO troops? Poland aims to offer military training to 100,000 adults a year. Poland has been arming itself heavily, and so that militarization of Eastern Europe continues. Meanwhile, and this brings us to Romania, but Eastern Europe in general did not get rid of their communists at the end of the Cold War. They did not remove communists. They did not go through a lot of their institutions. So what the communists did is they embedded themselves like ticks in international and globalist institutions and in the judiciaries of these countries. And we witnessed this in Poland, that there were communist elements still entrenched in these Eastern European countries. And I think that probably the biggest example of that is what happened in Romania. Far-right Romanian presidential candidate loses appeal against a vote ban. This is after he won And so you had globalists and international institutions, i.e. the EU, and then you had the judiciary inside Romania stopping someone who the people already voted in from actually taking office. This is going to become a big problem in Europe. And I think that the discussions, at least strategy-wise, need to be had by the Trump administration on how to deal with these entrenched communists in the judiciary, not only in Europe. Hear what I'm about to say, not only in Europe, here in the United States of America. The Portuguese center-right government collapsed today after losing a vote of confidence in the parliament. So that means there's going to be snap elections in Portugal coming soon. In the United Kingdom, the government there is preparing for more riots this summer. And oh, wouldn't you know it, that a young communist is helping mobilize students across Wales in an attempt to take control of the University of Cardiff. Will they actually succeed? I don't know if that's really the case, but can we pull up the audio on this? You need to hear some of what these people are saying. She is specifically calling for the overthrow of the system. And if you think this is not coming to the United States, it already has. You just haven't been paying attention. Revolutionary Communists, Communist Party USA, they're already here. The Students for a Democratic Society already here. So I saw them in Olympia years ago. They're already here. So prepare here in the United States for the attempt to rally communist organizations, students across this country to try to stop Trump. This brings us now to the Canada front. I don't even know where to put this. Right? We now have a Canada front, apparently. A French nuclear attack submarine surfaced in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And OSINT Intel asked the question, is that protection for Canada against the United States? I don't know. It doesn't, I don't see a white flag on it. It's kind of normal maybe for the French military. Ontario Premier Ford says he's backing down now. I guess 24 hours helped out from putting a 25% surcharge on electricity sold to Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. Trump threatened hours ago to increase tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel from 25% to 50% if Ford didn't back down. I guess he did the math, and math wins out. But I want to talk about something more important. Canada has been a tariff abuser for years. This isn't coming out of the blue. The fact of the matter is, though, the U.S. economy can flex its muscle, and Canada really needs to come into alignment. I was listening to Pierre Poilievre and some other Canadians on the right saying that, the United States has stabbed its best friend in the back. Canada's been stabbing the United States in the back for years, and Trump's just trying to even the economic table. Also, Canadians who are in the United States for 30 days or longer will soon have to register their information with the U.S. government. I find this interesting as well. Now, there's going to be some headlines coming out in the next 30 days regarding how the Canadian government has put certain patriots and Christians on a list. No trial, no due process, but based on U.S. news articles from, oh, wait for it, NGOs that were funded by USAID to smear those same Christians and patriots. They're looking at trying to prosecute some of these people in Canada if you cross the border. Now, I have not heard anyone in the media anywhere. This is breaking on Patriot Radio, but I have the documents already. No one talking about the fact that the Biden administration may have been conspiring with Canada to put patriots and Christians on a list based on newspaper articles and reports where the evidence is only newspaper articles, kind of similar to what happened here in Washington State. And the fact is that not only is that illegal, and not only may that violate treaty requirements, But also, do we really want to be friends with people who are doing that? And what was the complicity of the Biden administration in that? So some questions coming very, very soon on the Canada front. Now moving to the national front. A whole bunch of consternation out there about the removal of someone on a green card for, well, Mahmoud Khalil, leading unauthorized marches, glorifying the October 7th attacks in Israel, organizing and inciting others to join. The Trump administration removed him. Now, a little bit schizophrenically, in a 24-hour period, the Trump administration removes one jihadi and then puts another one associated with jihadists as the ambassador to Kuwait. So there has to be some questions there. I got it. But the fact of the matter is, a green card is not a right. It's a privilege. And here are some of his quotes. Quote, "We've tried armed resistance, which is legitimate under international law, but Israel calls it terrorism." Who's we? Who is he working with? What network does he have? I think that's the question for U.S. investigators and the FBI. A reporter asked Speaker Mike Johnson today, what crime did Mahmoud Khalil commit to warrant his arrest? And here's how he responded. "Let me tell you something. I went and faced down the angry mob at Columbia at the height of that stuff. If you are on a student visa and you're an aspiring young terrorist who wants to prey upon Jewish classmates, you're going home. We're going to arrest your tail and we're going to send you home where you belong." Yeah, we don't have to, as the United States, allow people into our country who seek our destruction. How absurd that would be. But the founding fathers actually addressed this as well. And they would be laughing right now at the attempts of the left to try to justify keeping this guy in the U.S. J. Michael Waller brought up a very interesting point here. The House passed today 402-1 the Subterranean Border Defense Act, which aims to crack down on underground tunnels used by cartels and traffickers at the border. The lone no vote, Rashida Tlaib. What is their fondness, this united front of communists and jihadis? What is their fondness with underground tunnels? The United States Department of Education announces plans to cut nearly 50% of its workforce. The layoffs begin tonight. This looks like it is headed toward a complete scaling down of the U.S. Department of Education, and we hope its eventual elimination. The Sunrise Movement is a joint communist jihadi effort. All are working for the destruction of America. So if you've not heard of the Sunrise Movement, we're going to have a couple experts on to talk about it here in the near future. So let's make sure when you hear things like this, and Unity Front is another one, you hear these organizations begin organizing in the United States and begin pushing protests and doing things, that these are actual organized, intentional movements to bring about the destruction of the United States of America. Concerned Catholics have requested an investigation into how government funding was used by Catholic dioceses, Catholic charities, and Catholic relief services, and all NGOs. Yeah, it would be good to find out what these things were being used for, and was it being used to undermine the United States. RFK Jr. seeks to end a rule allowing food companies to bypass FDA ingredient approval and moving down the road of making America healthy again. A USAID official issued a stunning order to remaining staffers to shred and burn all documents, including classified ones. That seems to be a violation of the law. I wonder if that's going to be investigated. USAID's acting executive secretary, Erica Carr, told the staff to meet at the RRB 14th Street lobby to shred as many documents first and reserve the burn bags for when the shredder becomes unavailable or needs a break. Carr also ordered staff to label the burn bags with the word secret and USAID in dark Sharpie if possible. Wow. That would be in clear contradiction to President Trump. And, I mean, that, my goodness, looks like a cover-up. And that brings us to corruption being misgendered today. Chaos erupted after transgender lawmaker Mr. McBride was called Mr. during congressional hearings. He said, "Do you have any decency?" Well, the question is, do we all have to abide by your unreality? And the answer, of course, is no. Could we play a little bit of that clip? Go ahead.
I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
sorry.
could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply.
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman?
The
Would you
standard-
repeat what you just said when you introduced?
So notice what
the
happened.
duly
She
elected
called him a
representative?
her, so she misgendered him back. Okay, that's what happened. Now, the decorum of the House is already set, so they're just trying to foist their own morality on the rest of America and jam it down everybody's throat. Great job holding the line there in Congress. Also, according to Reuters, Trump intends to build mineral facilities on U.S. military bases. He intends to sign an executive order soon allowing refining facilities for critical rare earth minerals to be built on Pentagon military bases. As part of the order, the Pentagon would work with other federal agencies to install processing facilities on those bases. And the plan would be, according to two sources, to establish mineral facilities on bases in conjunction with other federal agencies. Now, I want you probably never have seen this. This is the amount of military land in each state. We can scroll down to that map real quick. So in every state, as you can see on this map right here, there is a significant amount of land that is owned by the U.S. military. 2.2% in Washington State, 5% in Nevada, 5% in New Mexico, 2% in Florida. So there is plenty of land to do exactly this. And this is a novel idea because this would immediately allow for these processing facilities to begin. It would bypass a whole ton of different permit issues, red tape, and balance the playing field between the U.S. and China. And that is the briefing. Remember, the antidote to dependency and socialism is to be a God-fearing, self-reliant, freedom-loving Americans. Thank you so much for everything that you have been sending to us here at Patriot Radio. Please share this broadcast far and wide. And when we come back from the break, our guest, John Haller.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
What do a neurosurgeon, a country artist, and a television and radio host have in common? They all saw the writing on the wall. Big banks sharing your financial information with big government. Join them as owners in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Invest today at own.oldglorybank.com.
And we're back with our guest today, John Haller. He is a 43-year attorney, serves as an elder and Bible prophecy teacher at Fellowship Bible Chapel, and he's also renowned for his expertise, not just on biblical prophecy, but on Israel. John, it's great to have you here on Patriot Radio. Thank you for joining us today.
Good to be with you, Pastor.
So, John, I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in the Middle East right now. It does appear that Israel is gearing up for an attack on Iran. I want to take the scriptural basis for that, but also some of the things that are happening in Syria with the slaughter of Christians.
Okay, well, it's sort of the question of what's happening in the Middle East might be better phrased. What's not happening in the Middle East? There's a lot going on. We've watched a rather stunning 6 months of activity on the part of Israel against its enemies, doing a lot of work in Gaza. They still have quite a bit of work to do, a lot of turmoil back and forth as to whether they're going to make people evacuate Gaza. I don't see how people can stay in Gaza while they rebuild it. And then President Trump has, and I think correctly, come out and said, listen, we don't want the people that are there that have been causing these problems, we'll let them leave, but they're never coming back. And I think that's the appropriate way. But then Israel's had these, Israel's been fighting about most people say a 7-front. It's actually an 8 or 9-front war.
Right.
When you add in the social media and the just incredible rise in anti-Semitism and Jew hatred, my X feed every day is just a sewer of Jew hatred that I have to wade through. But Israel's done very well. I mean, I was interviewing a lot of experts, military experts, intelligence analysts back after October 7th. And back in those days, the thinking was that Israel would have to deal with Hezbollah in Lebanon. They would have to deal with Hamas in Gaza, and they would probably have to deal with Iran. But in the front involving Hezbollah and Hamas, they expected somewhere in the order of 25,000 civilian casualties and a like number of military casualties. Well, the military and civilian casualties have been nowhere near that number, been very disruptive. But, Israel started this. They started taking out the leadership of Hezbollah. One of them was taken out in a safe house, an Iranian Revolutionary Guard safe house in the heart of Tehran. Very precision strike. They then did they started devastating southern Lebanon, taking out about 80% of Hezbollah's ability to launch missiles. There was fears that they would be launching thousands of missiles a day. That never happened. So they were able to control that. Then they did that something right out of a James Bond novel with the beeper and pager attacks. And now the word's coming out. There were some interviews with Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah at the time, that those attacks led him into a very severe depression. That led to him being killed in a very severe depression not too long after that. In a stunning attack, his bunker was about 150 feet underground. Israel came in and dropped essentially 43 tons of bombs in the same spot. And it sort of drilled down through the earth, sucked all the oxygen out, and he suffocated to death. His funeral was recently. At the same time, Israel's pretty much destroyed the power grid and port facilities of the Houthis in Yemen. They are doing massive operations throughout the area that is, I hate to use the term, but I'll use the term only because it's what everybody else says, the West Bank, really biblical Judea and biblical Samaria. Actually, if you've been there, it's the biblical heartland of the Bible that they claim that they're going to take over and rule. That seems to be the prophecy of Ezekiel chapter 35, where it talks about a people in the mountains saying, well, it's our land. We deserve this land. We're going to take it over. That seems to be coming true, but Israel's put a massive number of military troops right into Judea and Samaria. They said they're not leaving anytime in the near future. And then we have the situation in Syria. Syria fell in about to us, it looks like it fell in about 7 or 8 days. But in the background of this long Syrian civil war, which started back in March 2011, the rebels up in Idlib province, they always had the phrase, the Iranian civil war will start in Idlib and it will end in Idlib. And so these rebels, some of which have been transported by the Assad regime up to that area to sort of get them out of their comfort zone, they joined together. A lot of Turkish funding, Turkish control, and then they decided, once Israel had taken out all of the Iranian proxies in Gaza, in Lebanon, suppressing them in the areas of Judea and Samaria, in Yemen, the rebels decided to attack. Back in December, Vladimir Putin did his annual press conference, and during that press conference, he said that there were 30 to 40,000 Syrian troops, military, guarding Damascus, and they were able to take over Damascus in a day and a half with about 800 people. It was a stunning military operation, and now what we see, but understand this was run by Turkey, and this is a very significant thing prophetically. I mean, we argue back and forth about, who's involved in Ezekiel 38 and 39 invasions that are coming. How soon they're coming, we don't know. But one thing that's crystal clear is that Turkey is at the heart of that invasion. And we have seen Turkey flip over the years. They've become very bold. I don't know if you've seen this. I talk about it a lot because, to me, I've been watching Turkey for many years.
Yeah, we talk about this quite a bit, that Erdogan kind of fashions himself as the next caliph, that they turned the Hagia Sophia back into a mosque to ordain the next caliph. So, yes, we talk about it quite a bit.
Right, and there was a poster that was used at a demonstration in favor of the Palestinians in Istanbul on January 1st, led by Erdogan's son. It was titled "The Sun Also Rises," but the poster has a picture of a silhouette of Hagia Sophia, and it has a silhouette of the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus, and it also has a picture of the Dome of the Rock. And it says, yesterday, Hagia Sophia, the largest church in Christendom. Yesterday, the Christians. Today, Umayyad. That's the largest mosque of the Umayyad Empire, the central mosque, which was a Shiite empire out of Persia. Today, Damascus and the Shiites. And tomorrow, Israel, Jerusalem, and the Jews. And so when they use this imagery and these statements, and you know that Erdogan's been doing this for years, as you mentioned, converting Hagia Sophia back into a mosque, we ought to take them seriously.
We should. And
now within just, I don't know how much time we have, but just in the last 3 days, this leader of the Syrian revolution, self-appointed president, has made peace and military agreements with the Kurds up in northeastern Syria. And that's got the blessing of Erdogan, because he's always had problems with the Kurds, the biblical Medes from the Medo-Persian Empire. And then he's also made an agreement just in the last 24 hours with the Druze in southern Syria. Israel has taken advantage of this revolution. What they did, they have made probably well over 100 bombing runs to take out all of the leftover Assad military, the Syrian military assets. It's a stunning operation. They've probably destroyed 95% of that military capability. And they did that because they know that the jihadis are in charge of Damascus now in Syria. We've seen some slaughter in Latakia province along the ocean. That's a Alawite sect. That's the Assad family, belonged to the Alawite sect. The Alawite sect controlled Syria, controlled the areas of the Russian military bases there along the Mediterranean. But they've just gone in and they've just been slaughtering Alawites and Christians over the past few days. And the thing is, it is not received. I sit here and I watch this, It's not received the military press. The media just seems to not care, but let Israel take out a Hamas military base that's in a hospital in Gaza, and that's all you ever hear. And there are protests all over the country. Since the Syrian civil war started, over about 60% of the Syrian people do not live where they lived in 2011. There are millions dead. There are millions in Turkey. There's well over 1 million refugees in Lebanon. There's 3.5 million Syrian refugees in Turkey. And you have not seen one protest at Harvard, Columbia, Yale, UCLA, whatever left-wing university, well, saying whatever left-wing university, saying left-wing university is kind of a redundant term, but you don't see any protests about that.
That's exactly right.
It's a stunning thing to watch.
It is. So, John, when we come back from the break, just really quick, what can we expect next? When we come back from the break, John Holler, fbchapel.com.
American business owners, you understand the power of TV. If you have a product that you want to sell to millions of like-minded Americans who value quality, hard work, and supporting the red, white, and blue, Supporting Patriots is the perfect place. If you're ready to bring your product to a patriotic audience eager to buy American, then contact us today at supportingpatriots.com and secure your spot on Supporting Patriots. Let's build a stronger economy. When we buy American, we support our future.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle, about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
You know, if I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep. It's filling up more energy, more get up and go, and it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
And we're back with our guest, John Holler. He's from Fellowship Bible Chapel, an expert on biblical prophecy. So, John, in the last 3 minutes that we have left, I know it's quick, but what can we expect next in the Middle East, biblically and in reality?
Okay, number one, the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, came out the other day and said that Iran now has enough material for 6 nuclear weapons. Now, how well they're doing in terms of putting that on a missile, but they've been doing missile tests, they've been doing long-range missile tests, and there have also been some strange earthquakes in Iran, which lead people to believe that they may have actually done some underground nuclear testing, or they have outsourced it to North Korea. So Israel, in a stunning attack, took out most of the air defenses of Iran. But that taking out of those air defenses has a shelf life. So they're sort of bumping up against the time when they're going to have to do something to act. President Trump has released massive amounts of bombs, weapons, abilities for Israel to do massive bombing in Iran. And I think that the attack on the Hezbollah leader might be a preview of how they get some of these underground missile bases, underground nuclear facilities, and that sort of thing. So that's number one. I expect something to happen on that in the near term. Number two, President Trump, when Prime Minister Netanyahu was here about a month ago, said that he would have a decision on annexation. The word that I'm getting out of sources in D.C. is that Trump will support Israel annexing all of Judea and Samaria. That will be a very big game changer. That's going to send a shockwave through the Arab world. And then I think you also need to watch the political situation in Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu has been going through this ridiculous lawfare attack, these ridiculous cases brought. It's the exact same playbook that they did against President Trump over the past few years. They've been going after Netanyahu for years. I was there 2 years ago. I said, how long is this trial going to last? And they said probably 5 years.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. And I'm a lawyer, and I can tell you there is not a non-corrupt legal system anywhere that would allow a case like that to go on for that long. It's political, and there is a big political issue with that in Israel, but 87% of the people support getting Hamas out of Gaza, no two-state solution, and that sort of thing. So the battle lines are drawn, and we're going to see some big things happen in the very near term.
And as a lawyer as well, I've seen cases that have drug on, but you never see something like that unless it's got a political motive behind it. So I couldn't agree with you more. John Holler, thank you so much.
Thank you,
I would
Pastor
love
Matt.
to have you back on again.
Anytime.
Really appreciate your time. God bless and keep up the fight.
Thank you.
Fellowship Bible Chapel, fbchapel.com, John Holler. And what do you think is going to happen in the near future? You just heard it. And so there's no fear here, but it does look like something between Israel and Iran is in the offing here in the next 30 to 90 days. You can never be totally sure on this, but we were talking about a 90-day period between January and the end of March. We're still in that window. So what can you do? Well, one of the things that you can do is get the truth out to your friends and family about what's actually happening in the Middle East. The Christians, you know, we talk about the Druze, and that actually was a shocker because the Druze were actually making overtures to Israel. The Christians, what is happening to the Christians on the ground? We can always support protecting the Christians on the ground in the Middle East, and we can always support standing for the Jewish people and their right to exist. So Trump is doing that. Get the word out, and also pray for peace in Jerusalem, because like he said, they're going for the Hagia Sophia, the Christians first, and they're going for the Shiites. Now they're coming for the Jewish people in Jerusalem. This is Matt Shea. Thank you for joining me on Patriot Radio. May God bless all of you. He is making this generation the greatest one. The awakening is here. It's going to be about knowledge. When you have it, you can keep up the fight.